Good evening and welcome to Face to Face. My name is Niresh Eliathambi and today it's a very wet and windy day outside and I hope that you are all staying safe. To discuss this situation and much more regarding politics in Sri Lanka, we have with us Mr. Harshana Rajakaruna, who is a member of parliament representing the Gampaha district. Welcome, Harshana.
Thank you for inviting us.
So tell us, what's the latest situation? You have come here direct from Gampaha.
Yes.
What's going on now?
Actually, it's severe rain that has caused flood in most of the parts of Gampaha district, and so thousands of people hundreds of thousands of people are suffering because of that. So it's just like in 2016, 2017, or the flood situation is probably even more than then. So I mean, I was in most of the places that I could reach to. Biggest problem is that you can't reach most of the places by road.
A lot of the roads are inundated.
Yes, and so I mean, as a representative of the people, I think it's a duty that we could go and do whatever possible. I mean, we were able to give dry rations so that they could cook their meals, and most of the places, they have like a community center where we could give whatever the dry rations that we can give, and that's what I have been doing the whole day today. And
which areas did you visit?
So I visited Kalaniya, I visited Biyagama, I was in Dompe, Attanagalla and Gampaha, and even Jaila. So I mean, and even Pasyala, that area. So most of the surrounding areas where the Kalani river is, and also the Attanagalla. So those are the main areas that has affected Gampaha district.
Now, this sort of disaster situation does bring out the best in Sri Lankans, doesn't it? So many people who are volunteering, donating food and money and so on. So it brings out a very good spirit, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think most of my friends who I reached out to were more than happy to help, and so it's a good thing where everybody gets together irrespective of race, religion, ethnicity. So everybody has got affected. The Sinhalese, the Tamils, the Muslims, all have got affected, and so it was very nice to see that they all have got together to help in whatever way they could.
Right. Now, one of the things that strikes me is that year after year, we seem to have these flood situations happening, and we do know when the rains come. This is, after all, the southwest monsoon time. It happens every year. Of course, it's more severe than before, I believe, this year. But why is it that we seem to be so underprepared? I wouldn't say unprepared, but underprepared.
So, I mean, even today, when I went to an area in Malvana, so it was in the Muslim mosque that they were all cooking, and unfortunately, when I spoke to them, the government contribution or the government personnel have not reached there. And when I spoke with the Gampaha, the GA, the government agent, the communication there's a huge lack of communication, where some of the Gramanildaris have come and said that they can't help because they are not in a camp. But there's absolutely nothing like that. When I spoke to the government agent, when I spoke to the GA, he says no, There's nothing like that. Now they have given instructions, but still it has not been communicated, and we had to intervene and get it corrected. So I mean, the flood situation, the floods came in early morning yesterday.
That's
So
right.
it's almost 48 hours, and still the government relief has not reached there. So it was the community that had got together, and we supported, and they were helping themselves. So there is a huge lack of communication and a delay in the relief that should be there good 24 hours ago.
But that seems rather strange because we all knew this was going to happen. The warnings came from the Met Department, and also there are so many weather apps today, which on your phone you can see what's going to happen. At least in the next 24, 48 hours, and some apps will predict for a week or so. So why would the government apparatus be underprepared and so slow?
So actually it is this development that has caused this unplanned development, and those municipal councils, and even the highway, when it was constructed, because it's not fully constructed in the parts in Gampa, especially from Kadawatha to Mirigama,
That's
sector.
right.
So all that is stalled, and therefore the waterways are not cleared. So that has also been a problem, and people are suffering because of that. Yes, I think this is something that happens every few years, and definitely there should be planned relief operations happening by now.
Now, there are various plans. As I understand it, we have the Disaster Management Center, which does a fairly good job, I believe, and we have the armed forces, the police, and so on. And the armed forces themselves have over 400,000 members. So we certainly have no shortage of manpower, and the armed forces also have vehicles, boats, aircraft, and so on. So one would think that the relief would happen very, very quickly, but it appears that not enough of the resources are actually put into use.
Yes, and also during 2015 and 2019 government, we had started this flood controlling development throughout the Kalani River surroundings, and unfortunately, all that has stopped. So we had a plan, and that was halfway stopped because of the economic situation. And there is a major plan, especially when the megapolis ministry was there, and it was started off from Kaduwela to that area. So I mean, unfortunately, none of this is continued.
Now, this comes at a very bad time when for several years the people have been battered by economic issues, first by COVID, and then of course by the economic disaster over the last 2.5 years. And now those same people are being hit very hard by the floods once again, adding to it.
Yes, it's very sad, and I mean, people are, they all the businesses are closed, and I personally have heard regarding Avisavela, that Puakpitiya, that area. So from Ratnapura, all that is affected very badly. And so I mean, I hope the government will intervene and compensate somehow, because people are finding it very difficult anyway. So with this natural disaster coming into place, they are even more affected, and the government has to intervene and compensate as much as possible, because not all businesses are insured. I mean 2015 to 19 we actually had as a government we insured the country for these natural disasters, and I can remember both in 2016 and 2017, both when there were floods, we were able to pay a significant amount of money as compensation, and I think that's something that government has to look into.
Right. Now, before you became a member of parliament, you were a member of the Western Provincial Council. Now, provincial councils and local government operations have, well, the councils themselves are non-existent, and they are simply being run by the bureaucrats within. Do you feel, Harshana, that if we had the councils existing, the elected members, then these matters such as the disaster relief would take place more efficiently?
I believe so, because when there are elected members, their duty, and of course they are compelled to work in that area. So when you have only few officials working, when obviously it's not going to be as efficient as elected members. So elected members, when you are in charge in that area, you usually you live in that area, and you have to go and do whatever possible relief work and so on, and also get the help from the municipal council or the government agent or the members of parliament, or then it the relief that they can get is far more. So I believe that obviously not having municipal elected members in the municipal councils is a negative thing.
So this is again a consequence of sorts of not having the local government elections, would you say?
Absolutely. So I mean, as a member of the SJB, I and my general secretary of the party, Ranjit Madhu Mandara, we went to courts, and we got an interim order to have the local council election. But the government was stubborn enough, and unconstitutionally they didn't allocate the money required to the election commission, and they didn't they were not able to have the elections. So I mean, they have money to do all other things, but they were simply afraid to go for an election, and that is undemocratic, unconstitutional, and so I mean that also is a very sad situation when it comes to not only this natural disasters, but as a country that we uphold democracy, not having elections, and now we see the General Secretary of the UMP, the party that is represented by the President of the country, saying that they should not have the presidential or the parliamentary election, but they should continue for another 2 years.
Well, in fact, today there was a press conference by Mr. Palitha Rangabandara, and he defended his stance and said that what he said was a constitutional process. What do you have to say to that?
So, absolutely there is nothing in the constitution other than you change the constitution. So, to change the constitution you need 2/3 in the parliament and a referendum. So I mean, simply the reason that they are doing that is that they know that they can't face an election. If they have an election, it's a sure defeat. So, therefore, they want to somehow extend their tenure by not having an election. So, this is not the first time that they said. I think the chairman of UMP, Vajra Abeyewardena, said that we all should get together and have only one candidate, Ranil Wickremesinghe as the presidential candidate. So, the General Secretary of the Parliament, General Secretary of the UMP is saying not to have election, but to postpone. So, obviously, it looks as if that they are trying their level best not to have an election, but according to the constitution they have to have an election, and we will make sure that they have an election.
So, in your opinion, is this simply Mr. Palitha Rangabandara's own view, or is it something deeper where his party, the UNP, is actually seriously looking at this?
I believe that it is not a personal comment at all. I believe that it's a comment that was made after a thorough discussion, and most likely the president himself would have instructed him to mention that. And so, I mean, by having another press conference and defending it, that obviously gives an impression that this is what they are planning to do. But I believe that it will be a disaster if they bring it. And of course, even if you go for a referendum, I mean, you can't win. I mean, if you can't win an election, you don't, obviously you are not going to win a referendum election. So it's just a waste of time, money and everything else.
And each election apparently costs about 10 billion rupees or something like that, mainly of course to pay for the public officials who have to work in the election, and of course the transportation vehicles and so on. So would you say having a referendum would be basically a waste of money?
Absolutely a waste of money. I believe that we need national elections, and according to the constitution we have to have the presidential election on or before 17th of October, and that is a must. And according to the constitution you can have a parliamentary election if the executive, the president, has the powers to dissolve the parliament, or the parliament has to
dissolve itself.
The majority in the parliament has to have a vote in favor of dissolving the parliament. However, I believe that as SJB we believe that we should have both these elections, because even the president is not having a people's mandate. He is a person who lost his parliamentary seat, and he came into the parliament through the quota from the nationalist, and then with the blessings of the Rajapaksas and 134 Pohottuwa parliamentarians, he became the president of this country. But again, there is no people's mandate, and even the parliament itself, rather the government itself, the government is also now everybody got and chased them out, the government, and there is no mandate there. There is no people don't have that confidence in the government, and somehow Ranil Wickremesinghe, the president, has given them oxygen and brought them back into their electorates. However, we believe as SJB we need a government with a mandate and a president, a head of the state with a mandate. Therefore, I think the best thing is to have both elections even on one day. There is absolutely no legal barrier there, and we will support that, and that will save a lot of money for the country when we are having an economic crisis. We can save a lot of money, and having both elections, having two ballot papers, I mean, it's not going to confuse people. You can do that, and we are ready for that even.
No, that's an interesting proposal. So far, mainly we have heard of the presidential election, which constitutionally needs to be held before October, the mid-October, of course. And then there's the talk such as that comes through media, social media, and through politicians, that it should be the general election first. But your proposal is that it should be both together on the same date, which is a very interesting and of course much less costly process, and it would be faster as well, of course. But I mean, if you take that further, you could have even the local government and the provincial council elections all together.
No, the only thing is it'll complicate things, and I think the most important thing at the moment is because the presidential election is due in few months, and the parliamentary election is probably having two of that is the most practical solution.
Right. And how soon after a change in government do you believe that the local government election should be held?
I believe that right after the parliamentary election, okay, say you have the presidential election first. I would have to say as a party, and we would prefer having both together, but which is unlikely. Nobody is talking about that, no matter how many times we have raised this. So most likely it will be the presidential election first, then obviously the parliamentary election, and then would be the local council and the provincial council. So
right,
most likely it will be the presidential election first.
But of course, to restore the country to full democracy, you need to have all the elections.
Of course, because even the local council election, there is a delay of about 2 years. Provincial council election, there is a delay of, I think, about 7 years now.
I can't remember the last time we had a provincial council election. Of course, there are a lot of schools of thought on whether provincial councils are required or not, but if the provinces have councils
at the moment, the constitution says that there are provincial councils. So I mean, according to the constitution, we need to have elections.
So the constitution is a strange thing. Governments tend to ignore it whenever they feel like it. Citizens tend to ignore it practically all the time. But political parties in power often try to change it according to their whims and fancies. What is your view on the constitution and the sanctity of it?
So, constitution is not a permanent thing. It can be changed, but what actually should happen is that it should be changed for the betterment of the country. What happened in the recent past is that for personal or for for political gains, the country's constitution changed. I can remember when it came to 17th Amendment. 17th Amendment was pro-democratic constitutional change, but that was changed right after, and the 18th Amendment came, where 17th Amendment had the democratic, the commissions, the independent commissions.
Yes.
And it reduced the executive presidential powers. So when Mahinda Rajapaksa was elected, that was changed, and again all the independent commissions and all the powers of these commissions was again centralized to the executive, to the president. So again then there was this citizenship, dual citizenship effect. It was all changed due to an individual law too. So that shouldn't happen.
Right. This citizenship question seems to be an enigma in Parliament, especially who's a citizen, who's not a citizen, who's a dual citizen, and apparently we now seem to have had a tourist from the UK who had been sitting in Parliament for I think 4 years and was even a state minister. So how do we prevent this kind of thing? Because the Elections Commission is quite clear that they don't check a candidate's citizenship.
So I believe since now you can't have a dual citizen as a member of the Parliament, there has to be a mechanism by the Election Commission to prove your citizenship. So Election Commission should make sure when you give nominations that is also checked, because that is the first thing that they should do.
Absolutely.
So I mean then you can't still, if somebody is doing something, then you can go to courts and charge them with whatever.
But prevention is better than the cure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's up to the Election Commission, and I hope that they do that. And I mean, so far there's absolutely no no process of checking your citizenship.
But Harshana, we live in a country like most other countries. You can't cash a check without showing your ID card, either your driving license or passport or national ID. When you drive down the road, you may be following all the road rules, but if a policeman flags you down and asks you for your driving license, you have to show it. But here we have people getting into Parliament who haven't shown any form of valid ID. This is rather silly, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think they have to have a thorough process in checking your citizenship, and the Election Commission, that's the duty of the Election Commission, and therefore they should get their act together.
Now, the campaigning for elections, whichever election or both, has already begun, and I mean it's been going on for a few months perhaps, but it's gathering steam, and we also see a lot of backdoor maneuvering, alliances and new parties being formed. What's the current situation on that?
So, I mean, I have also seen so many parties, so many candidates, but I'm pretty confident that it will be Sajid Premadasa who will have a clear majority, and it will be the SJB that will form the government right after the presidential election. I mean, there can be so many other parties. It's good that it's for a vibrant democracy, having political parties is a good thing. But we see sometimes they are not very serious about it, and they don't have the grassroots support. But the SJB and Sajid Premadasa has the biggest support, and I believe that there's no one who can match Sajid Premadasa and the SJB.
Now, the NPP has of course gathered a lot of steam, far from what it had in the last election, which was I think about a mere 3%, but it seems to have got a lot of traction. Is your party concerned about this at this point?
No, the thing is, out of the 6.9 million votes Gotabaya Rajapaksa got, I think part of that has come to the JVP. So the JVP has increased from 3% to, I don't know, say 10%. So there is an increase, but certainly that's not going to be the majority. And the current president is also trying his level best to get whoever possible to his side. It's really unfortunate that they try all the tricks to get support from MPs, and unfortunately the amount of money that they are throwing, it's very sad. We have come across that over 400 liquor licenses have been, like wine stores, permits are to be given, and most of the time it's a member of the parliament who would get the share of it, and just to get the support. So the president and their group is doing whatever possible. They are having all these deals, the VFS and so many other things to collect money so that you can buy members of parliament. It's like, I would say it's political prostitution. There are a few people who would do that, and I hope the public would make sure that these people who would cross over for the sake of money, for the sake of other benefits, make sure that they don't come to the parliament ever again. So, I mean, why you are raping your voters? Simply, you're taking the vote and taking out all the money and the wine stores or whatever the benefits that you can get, and cross over. So it's very unfortunate that it has started now. I mean, a person who's come into the opposition is a person who would come not because he would get all these benefits, because opposition can't give those benefits. So I mean, the people who cross over to the government are the people who are bought by the government.
So, is this a serious concern for the SJB, that SJB members might be tempted to cross over?
No, I mean, I hope and pray that none of the SJB members would cross over like that, but we are getting offers, and wine stores, bar permits, then money, obviously the biggest bribe that they can give. So most of them are most of these things are happening these days. So, all I can say is that I do not think anybody would want to cross over when you do not see a future, especially when there is an election coming up. All I am saying is there should be the people of this country, the voters also should take responsibility and make sure you elect the right people to the parliament.
But unfortunately, the campaign finance legislation in this country does not cover this kind of situation.
No, that is a different story.
Yes.
That is a different story. I'm saying that that should be also considered, but there are people who cross over. There are people who are ministers for the last 30 years. 4 or 5 governments have changed, but there are ministers for the last 30 years. Every government they are ministers. So they depend on the government houses that they provide, the government vehicles, the government fuel and the staff and so on. So when they go for an election, if they are elected again, I mean they might also think there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. So there should be some responsibility by the voters also to elect people who have policies, who do not change their policies for the sake of power, money or post.
Now, the SJB was formed as a breakaway faction from the UNP. Is there any hope at all of the two sides getting together again?
Yes, two sides can get together again when Sajith Premadasa becomes the president of this country, and he was the deputy leader of the party, and we were most of the UMPers are in the SJB. So, I mean I am sure when we win the next presidential election, they will hand over the party to us, and that is how it should be. I believe that President Ranil Wickremesinghe made a big mistake in 2019 after Gotabaya Rajapaksa was elected. The whole country wanted a change in the leadership in the UMP. If the deputy leader Sajith Premadasa was given the leadership, by now we would have probably had a UMP government, and Sajith Premadasa would have been even the president. Unfortunately, due to personal reasons, that was not given, and that is why the UMP has come down to this level, having not a single elected member in parliament.
Right. And now, as my final question, because we are almost out of time, let us look on the flood situation once again, and what would you request from the government and other authorities that is the need of the hour right now? What more can be done?
So, the first thing that they need to do is give them food, that is, and water. That is the immediate thing that they have to do. So, the government agent has to instruct all the AGAs and then through them the Gramnildaris to get in to the villages and see what is affected and give them relief. And then the second step that they need to do is to compensate the businesses, the housing, so many houses have got destroyed, so many businesses have got destroyed. So, the livelihood has got destroyed. So, the government has a responsibility to compensate in financially for them to recover from this huge loss.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking with Mr. Harshana Rajakaruna, Member of Parliament representing the Gampaha district. Thank you very much for being here. With
Sorry
all
about
your
my
work.
attire.
I'm sure our viewers will forgive you for that. And thank you to you at home. Stay safe and have a good evening.